Hi, Susan.
Hello.
All right. So we are about to stream live on YouTube. So if anybody who's watching this, you will be joining the live Our Perverse Nature virtual reception.
Hello.
So we are about to stream live on YouTube. So if anybody who's watching this, you'll be joining the live Our Perverse Nature virtual reception.
Hello. Hello.
We are about to stream live on YouTube. So if anybody who's watching this, you'll be joining the live Our Perverse Nature virtual reception.
Hello. Hello.
Are we in some loop? We are about to stream live on YouTube. So if anybody who's watching this, you'll be joining the live Our Perverse Nature virtual reception. Hello. Can you all hear me fine? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it must have been streaming and I couldn't control it. All right, we're good. It's all good. Welcome everybody. Oh yay! Yes, beautiful. Hello. Oh my gosh, fantastic! I'm so excited. This is fantastic. For anyone that is interested, I'm going to share.
Turn the volume up.
It's down by the arrow keys.
Oh, and I have Lillian's name on still.
You should be able to edit it if you want.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to check my to-do list. I have made it the homepage. I've started Zoom. I've shared Zoom to YouTube, so we are live streaming on YouTube. And I need to start recording. Let's see. And record. And fantastic. We have done all the things on the checklist. So we are here. Welcome to Our Perverse Nature, my big art show I've been working on forever. Well, not forever.
Turn the volume up, please. I don't know. Can you help me?
I don't know where it is. Would you like some technical help?
No, it's my daughter's laptop, so I'm like, I don't know which button it is.
What do you want?
And my volume.
Oh. No.
It's one of those like function somethings. I'll find it in a second.
All good, all good. So if you haven't already, you should now go to kristenpowers.com and join the gallery. Hello, hello!
So you all look so good.
Welcome, welcome, everybody.
Oh. All right, dang, what have I got around here?
Yes, last minute costume party.
I gotta have something around here.
Yes.
There you go.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I just opened the gallery on kristenpowers.com. So if you haven't already opened it as a separate screen on your computer, and this is all best done on a desktop with Chrome preferably, but open the web page and click the gallery page, enter the gallery, and what you will find is a whole sort of choose your own adventure style gallery experience of stories and art and my original paintings, plus videos and photography and random things like a hairball. You'll find a picture of a hairball. It's a real hairball. It might be look rainbow craziness. That's mine. Yeah, yeah.
If you hear meowing in the background, that's my cat. Right when you said hairball.
Oh, they know hairball.
He's like, meow.
We will speak cat. For those who don't know, Addie Hertz will be joining me through this night as my co-host and fun compatriot. She is the curator of the High and Low Gallery, as well as an artist and a performer and a model and a fire eater performer, all kinds of craziness. She has done some amazing projects. Go to the High and Low Gallery and check out that event space as well. Did you want to say anything, Abs? Abbykin?
No, I'm just happy to be here and see you with your elf ears on.
What do you mean my elf ears? These are my normal ears. I have to put the human ears on every day. Those are annoying. Oh man. All right. So since we are diving into what I'm claiming is sort of the meet and greet time, and people are going to be coming in and joining, this is going to be very like impromptu, conversational. People will join and come and go. There's no need to like feel like you have to stay if you get enough out of this. At 7 p.m. we are doing an interview. Abby's going to be asking me some interesting questions about process and background and art and my inspirations and influences. And if you stick around for that, there'll probably be something interesting that you learn. And then we're doing a drawing later tonight for art. And I have this process art that there are 3 pieces that I'm going to be giving away. And they are all little watercolor and ink drawings that are based on a spinning top and making art with the spinning top. So they're very process based. I don't know, this is a terrible way to show these things, but we will do that drawing around 8:30 Eastern time, and we'll close it all up and have fun farewells and excitement at 9 p.m. So between now and then, we have some trivia, we have a little bit of games, we're going to be doing some silliness. And oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm like, who is this?
I love my friends. They're the best. We're in costume. Oh, I'm so glad I made this a costume party last minute. I was like, you know what would really make this better? Costumes. I didn't get any costuming on Halloween, and so I was really missing that. I think, you know, just not getting to join in the like costume festivities made me really just crave that excitement of dressing up with everybody. So, hey, more costume people! Oh, this is the best. So I am here to basically be your guide while you explore. So if you are just joining, you'll want to also open the KristenPowers.com page and open the gallery and start exploring that experience. We are going to be here hanging out, chit-chatting, having fun. I want to see all your costumes. You all look amazing. And if you have questions, Abby's going to be doing a formal interview with me at 7, so you can share some questions. Wynn's already given me one, which is awesome, and we will be sharing this. I want to invite you to sort of go into the website and click around, get lost, but enjoy the process. I think that's important. So I'm gonna do a thing real quick, and yeah, you're here. Ask me questions. Let's talk. Let's hang out. I miss you all.
Yeah, I'll probably stop my video and mute myself while I look at the website, so you're not like seeing me go like this. And...
Oh, there's my Nana. That's the Nana. For anyone who doesn't know, I have a Nana, and there she is.
Oh, your Nana. Oh, your Nana. Oh, hi, Nana.
Oh,
Nana,
wonderful
meet
to
all
see
my
you
friends.
all. Wonderful to get together in one thing. It's still a miracle. To me, at least.
It is definitely a miracle. It's definitely a miracle. For anyone that is of the nerdy data completionist persuasion, I want you to know that I have created a completionist guide. So you can download this. It's in the newsletter. If not, I can post it for you. And I believe it's in the website. You have to find it, where you can go through and create a checklist of all the URLs. There are approximately 33 different pages to go through, and they are in no particular order here so that you will find them. But there are 3 treasure pages that you'll want to find. And on those treasure pages, you will get a link to add your name to a spreadsheet, where at that spreadsheet, you will be entered into the drawing for the art later. So there's a little bit of a gamification going on here. You have to interact, explore, Na 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 na.
Yay.
Yay. Yes. And I have the backgrounds. Let me find that folder so you all can join in there. So if you can see Wynn's background with the painting, I've got a whole set of Zoom backgrounds that you can download and put behind you. And then somewhere in the gallery, there is a prompt to take a picture of yourself and share it. And so you'll run into a place where it'll ask you if you want to take a selfie with the painting. And so having these backgrounds will facilitate you able to take pictures with those paintings.
Wait, I'm daft. Where do we find the paintings to put in our backgrounds?
I am going to share the link. I did put it in the newsletter, but hello, welcome. Hi. Let me find that link. Just about to share some background links and talking about instructions for playing on the website. So is anybody, oh, yep. Is anyone going through the website now who would be willing to like share their screen and walk me through what you're seeing or ask questions? We can do it together.
Sorry, I did not realize I wasn't muted. So
Hey.
you probably hear stuff in the background. I'll fix that. The hypertext narrative is just great. I love that aspect of this. I think it's really, really good.
Thank you so much. All right. If anyone is looking for the backgrounds. Ooh.
I'm game to share. I'm game to share, Krista.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
If you want to, let's see, you should be able to share your screen. If anyone wants the backgrounds, I just dropped the link in the chat and you can download any one of those backgrounds.
Let's see. Screen share. Host disabled. That's all right.
Let me make it so you can. Try now.
Okay. Let's see.
Still trying to figure out what things they need me to do.
Is the selfie thing in Zoom or is it on your website?
It's in the website.
Okay.
It's in the gallery, like it'll prompt you in the gallery.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Fantastic. Carol, we definitely see your screen.
Yay.
So walk me through and we can talk together about what you're seeing. And
Okay, so far I've gotten okay, so let's go back in this. Let's do that.
There's a lot of retracing your steps. Experience.
Okay, so first you have to think about what's in your nature. And I was super tempted to say content with sameness, but I didn't. Out of me. I said open to new experiences, which, come on, page, which got me here. And so I saw this beautiful art being flailed around. And then of course, being the Excel nerd that I am, I found the checklist. So already have opened the checklist up.
You know, I just couldn't help myself because while I was building this, the whole time there was this real deep desire for my like user experience brain to be like, okay, I'm going to do all these user tests. I'm going to like gather all this data about how I'm using this and what's working and what's not. And so I started building this list for my own like sake. And I was like, oh, there's probably other data nerds out there who feel like completionists and are like, I need to hit everything. I need to touch all the
I'm going to open all the pages. So
there you go.
Are you ready to open up and start receiving nature? Or perhaps the darkest part of you craves thorns, fall into the web you built? No. So someone else may do that. I will be opening up to receive nature. So let's go there. Oh my gosh, look at that.
That's a beautiful picture, and it's not letting me go forward for that. It's not letting me go forward.
Look at that picture. So Kristen, tell us about this picture.
So this is one of the earlier paintings in the series. This is Hope Floats Despite Weighty Thoughts. And I was thinking about bubbles and space and planets and this idea of things rising up out of some sort of dangerous decay, angle, some sort of dangerous risky thing at the bottom through shapes and colors, and that this lightness was coming up out of it. And so this is one of those I would consider it sort of like a transitional piece for me, where I was moving from this abstract world of real heavy color, form, texture into starting to think about more symbolic objects into my paintings.
I like the hope is a 4-letter word. That is a really powerful statement about this.
So now more than ever, like we have this like interesting time period in our lives, in all of our lives, in our history, where hope feels really difficult and challenging, and it's not an easy thing. And so this idea of what does it mean to like hold on to that, especially when it's hard to.
Yeah. All right. So we have options.
Always
Reach
options.
some sun, investigate dark corners, push your limits. I'm going to let the audience decide. Audience, which button?
Push your limits.
Push your limits. You got it. All right. Push your limits.
Welcome, welcome. We are exploring together for those joining, and if you don't already have the website open, there is a link to the gallery at kristenpowers.com on the homepage. And if you would like to join in the dress up fun, there are Zoom backgrounds to download and add as your Zoom background in the chat. There's a link to that. So we can keep going. So you've pushed your limits. You're exploring your boundaries.
Yes.
This painting is called The Boundaries of Adaptation, and it actually was in a show in Gainesville not too long ago, and won one award. I don't remember which award it was. It wasn't the Viewer's Choice.
Yes.
But that's his painting.
Too many awards.
Nah.
Never. That's lovely.
So we are inviting people to share if they like to explore together. We can do a little co-exploring. I'll talk about the art if you would like to take turns. Carol's been kind enough to entertain me.
Well, yeah, and we can go to another page unless someone else feels like taking over the reins and sharing a page. Totally up to you guys. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to ponder life. I'm pondering life today.
It's a good button to click.
All right.
So, Kristen, I just want to say that I started off taking the exploratory path, and once I felt like I had exhausted it, then now I want to look at the content map and make sure what I missed. So, a little of both there, because I'm like, I know there's got to be more mushroom pictures out there somewhere.
Have you found the 3 treasure spots?
No,
Okay.
not that I know of.
So there are 3 locked pages that if you were on my Artist Insider list, you got the password to. And behind those pages is a spreadsheet where you put your name in, and that will enter you into the drawing at 8:30. Now, each one of these pages is deeply embedded with tons of mushroom pictures. So those are all my mushroom hiding spots, happen to also be the treasure spots.
Pick one.
Nice.
Pick one of these 2.
So Carol, you found one of the lichen
They're
treasures.
nice.
Yeah, very cool.
I found all 3 treasures.
Yes, you did.
I'm the first.
You guys are fast.
Oh,
He got a behind the scenes peek.
it took 45 minutes.
I've moved them all since you found them.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
So you're in the personal story background. So there's sort of a divergent path about my past and what inspired this show in particular. the last 3 years, and what has personally been going on with my life.
So that's how you started looking at mushrooms. All right, we're gonna look at mushrooms.
Ooh, beautiful.
Oh,
Oh, and touch mushrooms.
Mm.
I can't help myself. I have to touch them and poke them.
Oh,
yeah, that's neat. I saw some new, the first time I ever saw an, like almost looked like a small carrot was in my garden. Has anyone ever seen those? They were
Oh, like
mushrooms.
stick-horn.
Fungus. They were fungus. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like a weird red orange finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a stinkhorn. Those are
A
fun.
stink- Yeah, that was the first time I'd
Yeah.
ever seen that. All right. Well, I'm going back to the loop. I think I'll undershare. I think I'll do this on my own for a little while. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for sharing,
You're
Carl.
welcome.
So I'm definitely going to open it up and invite if someone else would like to explore with me. I can tell you some stories and share some background, ask me questions, catch up. This is the meet and greet part of the world where you get to just chit chat and hang out in my little craziness. Doop, doop, doop. I just want to talk to you all and hug you, by the way. I want you each to know individually, like I'm looking at all your names going, ah, it's so good to see you.
You look so adorable.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm very objective.
Love the
Yeah.
ears.
Thank you.
I love the fairy space elf look. It is amazing.
That's a good description. Fairy space elf. I like it.
Kind of came together naturally. I wasn't really sure where I was going. I was like, oh, this is what I am tonight. Okay.
I like
Kristen,
the
that's not what you had
background
on at work
too.
today.
I did not have it on at work today. I could have. I gave a webinar earlier today on strategic storytelling.
That's what I was going to say. And to divert back to work, you did an amazing job today. That was impressive. So,
I
Awesome.
was very sad to miss it, but I felt like my two incarnations might meet, so I had to stay away.
Well,
You can watch the recording.
yeah, it'll be online in a few days, so it'll be available. I did wear rainbow glitter suspenders though in my professional webinar. Even if I didn't have elf ears, I was still silly. It's important. If anyone has questions that they want to have answered, like deep philosophical art questions or just, random trivia questions, send them to us in the chat. Abby's going to be doing an interview with me. We have some really interesting topics to talk about. And if you have anything on your mind that you're curious about, why I make art the certain way I do, what kind of art I make over, how things have changed over time, or certain types of influences or things like that, please feel free to ask. And I hope that you're enjoying the Zoom backgrounds. They look fantastic on you.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So as far as like the narratives that you've kind of developed for each one of these going through this, was that something you had in mind when you were already creating these, or did this kind of come back when you were like looking back on your pieces and putting all this together?
That's a great question. Do you want me to answer that now or in the interview?
Oh man. I mean, I'm fine with the interview. You can answer now if you want, but maybe I would get a little bit more from it after going through a lot more of the pathways and everything. So
Are you currently exploring?
I am about to. I got everything set up. I'm trying to move windows around, and I thought about switching over to one of my other devices so I can have like the full screen here. So I'm setting things up at the moment still.
All right. Yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 different windows.
Yeah. I was wondering if maybe I can hook up. I have an extra monitor. But I have like an older and newer computer. So, and my dog's freaking out.
I like your headdress. It's very pretty.
Thank you. It's really, honestly, I was like, I have like no costumey stuff to wear, so I was digging through all my craft stuff and figuring out what I could just like clip to myself and do all that. And I'm like, yeah,
That's
20-minute
strategy.
costume, let's do it.
That's awesome. You are not the first, apparently, tonight to be like, oh, put things on head. Yes.
Yes.
Costume done.
Yes, it's true. It's true. As long as I got from here up some things going on, we're good. Coda, you calm down.
Oh, Dakota.
He's not gonna calm down.
All right, so has anyone found all the treasures yet? I think that you still should have more time, but I'm watching.
I cheated on the third one. I was like, thanks for the completionist list.
Yeah.
But I'm still poking around to try to find it naturally.
Time codes are part of the form, so I can see if someone's like just entering their name in.
You know that's me.
Naughty.
Did you put a link for that in the chat, or did you say that was in a newsletter that was sent out?
Which thing?
The doc, I think, that you're going through, or the Excel sheet for finding things.
It is Naughty and Perverse. Yes, indeed. That is in the experience. You have to find it. And
Okay. Yes, that's when we go in and enter stuff and it goes through. Okay, never mind.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay, literally right after cheating, I just found the third treasure.
Well, for those joining, there are two kind of concurrent experiences. One is open KristenPowers.com and open the gallery and start exploring. There are instructions on what you will find and what it'll be like. It is a experience. It is a choose your own adventure style hypertext narrative. You'll be answering questions and going down interesting, weird paths. Some are poetic, some are photographic. A lot of my paintings, they're all the original paintings I've made in the last few years. And then on top of all that, you've got these personal stories of making this art and what it was like and why I made it and how I got here. So if you would like to pair and share your screen while we explore, I am happy to give some background. Inviting people to share their screen while they're exploring. But yeah, we're gonna do an interview at 7 with Abby Hertz of the High and Low Gallery. And if you have any questions you would like her to ask, please pop those in the chat. Nick made the comment, naughty or perverse? Perverse, in fact. For those of you who are exploring and starting to find some of this textual experiences about perversity and perversion and what does this mean to be talking about what is perverse. There's a lot in there, and that word has multiple meanings. And we're going to talk about that deeply at 7 p.m. Would anyone be willing to share their screen as they explore?
Yep, I just found something absolutely beautiful. But you're going to have to give me co-host.
No, I don't think so. I already had someone share.
Oh, yes, you're right. Hold on, right here. I love this. I love this. I love the narrative in this, that it just
That is beautiful. Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. When you complete the whole experience, you'll be returned to the main page, and all the paintings in their full state are there in that main page. So what you're seeing in the gallery, sometimes they're different sizes and shapes because of the way the pages present, but you'll be able to go and view all of them full size in the main page. And there's my hairball again. I love my hairball. This is a story about getting entangled and finding your own way out.
Mm-hmm. He's the monster.
For anyone who has arachnophobia, I am deeply sorry.
Yeah, that one was fun.
I honestly didn't read that page because I was like, ah.
Oh my God, I love spiders so much. I think they're
Yeah.
so cool. But yeah, I know I'm weird and different that way. I just love them.
I love them too. Maria, thank you so much for joining, and please know that the gallery will be up for exploration. I'm hoping you can find something fun in there.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Funny story about this page. I had to go through about 6 or 7 different videos to choose the right touching the mushroom video because I have that many. I really like touching mushrooms.
What was the ultimate decider for picking this one?
Because it's like the puffballs make all the pew pew pew.
Yeah.
Worry business. There are other ones where like it's more of like brushing or like squishing or like flopping, but this one had the spore explosion, which was more exciting. More exciting. Katie says, I love spiders too. Kristen, this is amazing, fabulous. I love the twists and turns that you go back and explore. I have to go. You are amazing. Oh, Katie, you're amazing. I love you. Thank you for joining. We are doing.
I do too, and I'm trying not to be interrupty about it, but I definitely have to deal with children's dinner and things.
Okay, you have life. It's all good. I love you. Thank you for joining.
This is beautiful. Thank you.
And we are doing the interview in about 30 minutes. So if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. And we're going to be here hanging out until 9 p.m. So this is a very relaxed, casual, jump in, explore, have a conversation, ask questions, do the thing. We're zooming. Tis the world we're in now.
So Kristen, how did you find, how long have you been playing with this particular style?
Of painting?
And colors, and yeah, the style, the colors. How long have you been playing with this particular direction?
It's new, very new. And one thing that I will like sort of backstep and then answer your question, which is that I have been working on this like making of video, and I didn't get it to the place where I wanted it today. So I'm not going to do the video premiere because I didn't want to do something that wasn't the state that I wanted it in. But I will share some of the things that I have in that video. And one of the things is about how... Susan, you are not on mute, by the way, if you wanted to be. And Stuart's showing us the cat, which is awesome. I have been primarily an abstract painter, and we're going to talk a little bit about sort of the history and how those things evolved. But these paintings, they surprised me. They came out of nowhere, and it felt like I had this sudden like learning that all came together and everything suddenly made sense when I started painting this realistic nature stuff that I'd never painted before. I pretty much had just done really large gestural abstract work, and it was new and surprising, and it felt weird. And it took me a while to really embrace that, like, okay, this is the art that I'm making now. And we'll talk a little bit about the like people that I looked at and how I kind of came to terms with this. But there's a weird sort of time warp overlap going on, which is that I'm sort of tapping into the person that I was and the things that I was interested in. Excuse me, bubble water. When I was 20 and just finishing my undergrad, I was in Gainesville. I was at UF, and I was doing this dual degree in English and painting. And so what you're seeing now is this weird accumulation of almost 20 years later, how hypertext narrative and painting and wanting to make surrealist imagery, but not really having the skill or patience or the practice for it, and all of these things sort of coming together this year with about 3 years of art sort of building up to that. So this show in particular represents 3 years of accumulated work. Has anyone taken a selfie yet?
No.
No? Let me go check the folders.
Still didn't find the prompt.
It was on screen, we saw it. How long have you been planning this event? That's a difficult question to answer. I have been wanting to have a solo art show. It's been like a New Year's resolution goal, probably every year for the last 3 years. And when things in my life took a very strong turn to the left, which in this case would be when I got fibromyalgia and had to return home and stopped working and stopped doing everything. I put all those goals on hold. And so this has really only been a possibility of having this show in the last year and a half. And that's after spending a year back at home and recovering and taking care of myself. And during that time, I really spent lots of exploration in nature, which is what you're seeing the influence kind of come out in the paintings. So in terms of like building for the show, it's been about 3 years, but the actual like deciding that I could do this as an event, last year and a half, and deciding to do this event and like making it this show this way, only a few months. Which was like, oh, I can do this now. Oh wait, we're stuck in a pandemic. What are we gonna do? I guess we'll do a virtual event. And
Hey, Kristen.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I have made it to the selfie prompt. How does it work? I see the like upload. Should I have taken a picture before? Or
So the way you are now in front of the art with the background, do you have a way to make a screenshot on your computer?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that.
No,
Okay, that answers
that's the
that.
idea. And then I have a collection of
Thank you.
people in front of art, just like in a gallery, since we can't do real things right now. And we only exist as virtual spaces now, right? I am curious how other artists have been dealing with pandemic and sharing things. I know I've got a few artists here. Does anyone else want to share what they've been doing because of the constraints of this situation? Yeah, it looks like my painting is eating you, which is sort of appropriate.
Yeah.
You're
down
being
with it.
consumed by the flowers.
I'm actually pretty pleased with it.
Yeah, I was wondering how you did that.
I just don't have a green screen, and I'm wearing, I guess, enough black or even.
It's doesn't really make sense because you don't need a green screen for these. They should just work. But
Yeah.
you know, you're special. So
Yeah, I mean,
you win.
even though my hair's not black, it's purple. It's still thinking. I'm good. I'm happy.
Good. Fantastic. Fantastic. Happy accidents.
Oh, the cat got up. Stuart's cat.
Oh goodness.
So do you have to add your name to the list 3 times?
What?
Do you have to add your name to the list 3 times?
Yes.
Or
If you
just
want
one?
to be entered 3 times.
Okay.
I'm just giving you 3 chances.
3 chances.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to find them. But if you'd like 3 chances, you can. We have another chat question. Do you have a favorite plant that you use for shape inspiration in your paintings? That's an interesting question. Favorite plant? I think I have several that I definitely go back to when I think about things. I love the shape of aloe leaves. I think aloe leaves are just like super fascinating because they're thick and they have texture and they're smooth and they're pointy and there's like this softness to them, but they're also dangerous. And so there's all these interesting contrasts that I really love.
And juicy.
And
juicy.
True. I recently stuck my tongue on just like plain aloe just because I was like, oh, what does this taste like? Not delicious, FYI. In case you were wondering, the difference between licking an aloe leaf and buying aloe juice is pretty drastic. So I wouldn't recommend that. But aloe's one of them. And then I would say chrysanthemums, because they're all these folds and multiple layers and everything sort of like closing in on itself and then opening back up. And this theme of blossoming is something that I touch on a lot in my paintings. So I think of that certain type of flower. But I really love little teeny flowers, like flowers that are growing from weeds that are 2 inches tall, like little weeds, that little teeny flowers, and you'd step on them if you weren't paying attention. I think those are the beautiful ones, the little things that we don't pay attention to. I have a lot of artwork in here and a lot of photography of little worlds, of little micro things that make me happy, be it lichen or little flowers and weeds and mushrooms. And I did not put snail pictures in here. I had so much snail footage and like photography ready, but it didn't make it in time. But snails are also something that thematically come up often. And oh, you want to meet the snails? Yeah, we should introduce.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't met my snails, let's see. This is snail jar 1. There's one big guy up there. Let's see. There's another one. He's like growing over there. You can kind of see him. This jar probably has like 50 or 60 of them total. And then I have another jar that's got another 50 or 60. And I've been taking care of these guys since the pandemic started. I actually decided, oh, wouldn't that be a fun idea, is to like make nature jars and take care of snails. So I started with 5, and now I have lots and lots of snails. They're fascinating. If you've ever seen how snails like make baby snails, it's super interesting. And just be glad we don't have sex that way. Nature is really interesting. I would say perverse in some ways. Oh, I'm knocking things over. I could have like dance music. We should tune in, but I don't want to not be able to hear anybody. Nick says, I noticed your use of line breaks, white space, right, left, center, justified throughout the gallery. Do you also or have incorporated text into my paintings? I tried text and paintings probably a few times in college. It's like, you know, like a drug you try and then you decide it's not for you. That's me and text and art. I love writing, like creative writing is a huge part of me and what I do. But I've found that because words are so powerful and because the way people interpret words, and this is all back into like my storytelling deep dive, which is that, you know, when you put a word on a piece of art, it's like the label. You've put some sort of constraint on how someone's going to read it and interpret it. And I don't always want that. I want more openness. I want people to see something in it that they make and that they add to it or give to it in some way. And this idea of when you put a word there, it's like the keystone. It's the thing they go to, and nobody's going to get past that. So if you put a word like justice on a piece of painting or an art, that's all it's going to be about. And there's no layers anymore to it. That's not fun to me. And there's word art that's beautiful. I'm just speaking for my own sense that I like things that are more nuanced and open to interpretation.
I didn't know if I'd have a follow-up question.
But I have definitely, back in college, I played a lot with hypertext websites as like an art piece, like hypertext art as the art piece. So this is a really natural extension for me of that. But I haven't done it in so long. And gosh, the tools are different.
Yeah.
It's wild. It was really confusing trying to build this when I am like purposely trying to make the user experience a little confusing. And Squarespace does not like that. It's like, no. All of this must be really logical and connect this way in this obvious path. And you want all this navigation so people can make choices. I was like, no, I don't. I want to make it confusing and I don't want any of these things connected. So it was definitely a task to try to pervert the use of Squarespace into making it work for me. Hello, Athena, welcome. Oh yes.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Hi, Athena.
Hey.
Love it.
Also here with me.
Oh, we have a face.
Let me turn off my background because it's really messing with things.
If you go up to the top of chat, well, can you still see it? Let me share that again. For anyone who hasn't gotten a background and would like one, there is the file to download Zoom backgrounds. And you will find in the gallery experience, there is a prompt to take a selfie with a painting. So you will be able to take a screenshot of yourself with painting as a background and share that with me so that I can potentially share it later. And I have a collection of beautiful people with my art, which makes me very happy. Has anyone gotten lost yet? Yes. And then found your way back.
My problem is that I don't like, I try to open like all three of them at the same time and then look back and forth at them. And then I'm like, wait, I shouldn't have done that. And then I'm just 20 tabs open and I'm like, why did I do that?
They all circle back. So you really don't need to use the back button. And you will encounter all the pages if you just kind of push forward and make different choices each time you encounter the same page. Okay. I did make sure that you will touch everything. And if you don't, you can start again and find it. But nothing is like so super hidden.
Yeah. Well, I found all three of the treasures. So I did get that far.
I just ran into your the slime mold at 64 times speed, and I so wish there was a Botany for Designers 101. Oh my God, I would love that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I almost like started writing this like curriculum in my brain of like, what would I teach? And it's like this thing that I started to realize within nature, looking at it the way that I've started to look at learning as a designer how forms are put together and the way shapes connect and the textures and the surfaces and the decisions that nature makes in particular environments, or how certain adaptations are formed because of certain like evolutionary challenges. Like, it's just super fascinating. Oh, I'm seeing selfies come in. This makes me very happy. Y'all are awesome. All of this stuff really interests me, and I think if you're an artist who's thinking about how to be thoughtful about design and diversity and thinking about something that's going to inspire you, nature's it. I mean, nature's the ultimate designer. Also, that slime mold video is originally 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Well, we are going to be doing the interview with Abby. Well, Abby is going to be interviewing me. I always get that verb switched wrong. We're going to interview each other. It'll be a thing. Gonna ask some questions. So in about 20 minutes, 10 minutes. Oh, yeah, time's going fast. I know there is a question I haven't answered about the figurative versus abstract. Wynn asked that question. And then Nicole asked about if I planned on doing this from the get-go or if it kind of evolved. And then there was a question about when these paintings started being made. So I'll try to remember to touch on all of those. Abby, help me out on that. Yeah. And if you didn't get any of the information for this show in time, please sign up for my Artist Insider list. I think most of you are on it, but that's the way to keep in touch with me and the art things that I'm up to. Shelly, thank you for coming. Fantastic. What's the strangest thing anyone's found so far? Lots of truth in this site. Some things cannot be taught.
I don't know that anything is not somewhat strange, which is lovely. So let me just say that. Yeah. So you have to reframe that question, Kristen.
Let's see. What's the most interesting weird thing?
Okay.
Surprising weird thing?
I guess the rhizome. I've kind of hit this page a few times now. Rhizomatic sport. Yeah. I think that's really interesting. This is really, I guess, strange and interesting to me.
Fantastic. I will take that. I embrace strange and interesting wholeheartedly. I think many people would probably describe me with those two adjectives. And that's okay. We'll talk a little bit about what it means to be a rhizomatic thinker and why you stumble over that page multiple times. And there's an important reason. So much of what you're doing and exploring and the path you're taking and the choices you're making, there's a meta story about this, which is that this is the kind of thing I had to go through in terms of getting to where I am as like my own personal growth. And so this idea of like choosing paths and doing the thing that people tell you is the wrong thing and going a different direction and finding your own way and having to retrace your steps and go over and relearn things and touch on things you already knew and go somewhere else this next time. That's all purposeful in the website because that is how we explore life. That is how we make sense of the world. So it's all very intentionally designed. Squarespace did not like it. For anyone that hasn't found it yet, there is a completionist checklist of all the pages. If you are someone who requires touching all the things, you can find it. Oh yes, there we go. Oh, it covers you up, Della, when you show it. Della's trying to show the checklist. She's checking off. Alas. Zoom. All right. Wow, we got 30 responses so far on the contest, which is exciting. So for those of you who are entering, the drawing will be at 8:30, and I have 3 different pieces that I'm giving away. And something that I'll announce later is there will be another big giveaway at the end of the year. So the site will stay up, and there will be more things happening, and I'm going to continue to let it evolve and change as nature would. And some things will decay, and some things will grow from the decay. Yeah, pictures of cute people. Thank you. I'm fixing something.
Kristen, you have a question in the chat.
How did you do the portal animation? That's neat. Well, Elise Powers made the portal animation. She is a fantastic multimedia artist and created that particular entry and exit, depending on what you've found so far, image for me. So you will enter the portal and see it transition you into my crazy mystical alien plant orgy world, and then you will exit the portal and back into reality. The sculpture that the portal is based on is an important piece that kind of thematically comes up here and there. Is there a story about the sculpture? There is a backstory about the sculpture. Abby, do we have questions about the sculpture in there, the portal? I don't think we do.
I
I'll
don't
touch
know.
I'll touch on the portal and then we can dive into the interview if you like.
Sure.
All right. So a few months ago, there was this event that was a worldwide art scavenger hunt called Game of Shrooms, SHROOMS. And it was intended to be an art scavenger hunt where people were making mushroom-inspired art and then hiding that art in public for other people to collect and find. Unfortunately, my experience in Florida was that it was storming and we had thunderstorms for like 3 days straight. And every time that I was like, I'm gonna go put the art out on the day, and then it waited and no one got it. And so I went and I rescued the art. It was in the woods with a note saying like, take me. But it was just bad timing. So the art, the sculpture is with me and will be something that will come up later, but it was a new experience making sculpture and something that I'm excited to make more of. For sure. All right, Mistress Abby.
Okay, well, let's get started. I'm Abby Hertz. I'm the curator of the High and Low Gallery. It's an online virtual gallery that I started, I think I launched it in March or April, right around the time when coronavirus, the lockdown started. And I was like, what am I going to do with my time? So, and I've known Kristen for 15 years, maybe? I don't know. Is it about-ish 15
Yeah.
years? Or
Yeah,
more?
you met me when I was 25.
Well, you know, not to give her away our ages, because we're fairy elves, so we don't age. But so I'm going to put the chat box sort of to the side. So if somebody has a question that they want to ask, maybe just like let me know or something. But I'll probably jump around a bit. I'm a little ADHD. But the first thing that really interested me in just sort of like opening it up with softball questions for you before I really dig in. Because of coronavirus, you had to do this exhibition online and in a totally virtual format. How has that changed what you wanted to originally do with this exhibition?
Yeah. So when I was building this over time, so first of all, let me sort of back up to say that like when I started this work, I didn't know where it was going. I paint because I have to paint, and it started to build like, okay, there's a thematic organization to this. These all kind of go together, and there were things in my life that connected all these pieces. And so I knew I wanted to have this show, and I knew that this show was about my personal growth and how nature has inspired me or taught me things about personal development and growth as a human, and what it means to choose things differently and not take the default path and not take the thing that you're told to do as the only way, and questioning what's normal and natural. So I knew that I wanted to have this show all sort of cohesively somehow together. And I'd started looking for a venue in January, actually, here in Orlando. And I was sending out all these emails and looking at different locations and trying to find venues that were open to me doing wild installations plus gallery art. And I was like, yes, no, I have performers that I want to join me, and I have costumes that I'm designing, and I have giant like plant installations that I want to build in this space. And then it was like, oh, none of that's going to be possible. So I think in March, when everything sort of shut down, it was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess it's just off this year. And then by June or July, I was like, okay, this isn't changing anytime soon. Excuse me. And we need to find a different way to deal with this. And so a theme that I embraced was leaning into the discomfort and trying to look at adversity as some way to push me to do something different and to be more creative about the opportunities that I did have. And this was one of them. This was a different choice, a different path that I hadn't originally conceptualized. This was not the plan I had, but it's the best plan I've got. And that's because this works. This is something that now makes sense to the story that I want to tell and the work that I'm sharing, because I do have a lot of narrative storytelling aspects that are sort of missed, and being able to share it this way in a digital hypertext experience really brings it together, and creating these like forking paths and using the media to help tell the story with me and with the art was something unexpected. And so really going like, okay, there's an opportunity here. Plus I get people from all over the world who could join. It doesn't have to be a one night, rent a location for $2,000 for 3 hours kind of thing, which was the option. And I get to do this. I get to have people from all over the world join me and to share this experience with me. So it turned out into something really beneficial, which I hadn't planned on at all.
Yeah, I really love the choose your own adventure sort of experience with it. And when I met you, you were still, I think you were focusing mostly on digital media. So I was wondering how your background in digital media influenced both your paintings and also this show. Like what's the interplay between digital media, your paintings specifically, and then this show, and how you set it up.
Yeah. Well, so the last big digital set of work I did was actually in my 20s when you probably met me. And I was doing all these self-portraits where I was doing interesting photography. I was using scanners. I was putting objects on the scanner and using the scanner as a camera. I had lots of dead creatures in my freezer that I would frequently take out of the freezer and put on the scanner and take pictures of, and then compile those into collages in the digital space like Photoshop and putting them all together, making things big and small and playing with size and scale and layers. And I like that process, but it's not the same as painting. It doesn't feel like painting does. Painting feels like going to a therapist. It's a little painful sometimes. It's not always something that you want to do. It requires discipline. And there's a conversation. There's a back and forth. And this show was bringing sort of those two different aspects of that sort of therapeutic, creative exploration process with this layering narrative, more concrete experience for people to pair those together. So I think it enhances the painting in a way that I didn't anticipate. It's also become something that I've started to think about, where in the art process, the art making process, should I be leveraging digital tools, or are there things that I can do digitally that'll make my paintings better, like certain pre-planning steps or certain processes that I can help create before I make a painting and things like that. So it's kind of become this, I'm going to say like a community where I've got photography that I take that sort of inspires me, and then I draw from those sketches, and then I use the digital imagery to help me when I'm thinking through the actual like content of what am I painting about and why. So all those things sort of came together. I have a weird relationship with technology, to be very honest. And as someone who works in a tech space, software company, it's hard because I love computers, I love technology, but I also feel like I'm on it way too much. I'm like so tied to it, and I don't want to be. I want to be out running around in the woods and playing in dirt and touching mushrooms, and I can't always, but it gives me an opportunity to sort of find that balance about like nature technology in this conversation, this show.
Yeah, it's really interesting talking about like painting as art therapy, and then also nature. To me, at least, being in nature is also therapy as well as painting. And yeah, I was wondering what your background with, well, it's kind of a twofold question. So the first is how has adversity and overcoming situations impacted your body of work? And then also, how has psychology influenced your body of work, particularly Jacques Lacan and his use of semiotics?
You're just like going for the
Yeah, I told you I was like a little soft. I'm just gonna dive in.
All right. Wow. All right. What was the first one talking about?
Yeah. So for me, when I'm at my most creative is when I'm overcoming a situation, overcoming adversity. And I wondered if it was the same for you.
Yes, that is, I think this show more than anything, and it's been sort of a development, right? It's which adversity I'm challenged by has changed over time, but a lot of this art came from struggle and trauma and pain and finding ways to make something productive out of it. The backstory is definitely important here, that I was forced to abandon a life in Seattle and had to come home and live with my amazing family, but I couldn't take care of myself, and I had to find a whole new path to do that. Hi, Dan, welcome. And it required me starting over. And there was this time where I wasn't making art, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't contributing in any way that felt meaningful to me. And in that space, I didn't feel like I was myself either. I'm definitely someone who defines themselves as a creator. I need to make stuff. And that stuff could be art, it could be ideas, it could be inventions, it could be stories, it could be cake. It doesn't matter. I just like making stuff. And this challenge of having to give up things that I thought were my goals, where I was going in life, all the things that I wanted to accomplish, it pushed me to rethink what I cared about. And it pushed me to really define myself in such an uber specific way, because when you start with a blank slate and you're like, don't know who you are anymore because you've lost everything, it's an opportunity, but it's a real tough one. And that's what this art is about, is that process of dealing with trauma, dealing with pain and depression and anxiety, and dealing with things that have accumulated in your life that you now have to think about in a new way. It's what impacted this work. And it's the story you see in nature too, which is why this has all made sense to me, is that like you look at nature and you look at weeds that overtake things, or vines that grow over things, and nothing can stop them. And I was like, all right, I have an inspiration, you know, looking at that. So by far, I am super pro constraints, pro art bondage, if that makes sense. Self-art bondage, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask about Lacan later. I'm going to circle back to that because talking about constraints is making me think of process.
Oh yes, let's talk.
And I know that process is really important to you. I think in maybe a different way than it is for me. You know, my process is very like organic and intuitive, and I think your process involves so many different layers. So I was wondering if you could talk about your process when making a new painting.
Yeah, so there are different parts that I plan for. I want to always be prepared to make art, because art is constantly in my brain. So that means that I'm always taking pictures. I'm always collecting ideas. For anyone that's a fan of the two minds or two brains theory, there's this active brain and there's this passive brain. And the passive side, the tortoise, or the hare, the tortoise brain, the hare brain. The tortoise side is like the thoughtful thinking, collecting thing. And there's this part of me that believes that I should always be feeding the tortoise, whether that's like inspirational movies or taking in pictures, going out to the woods, taking in stuff always. And then I need time to figure out how those things come together. And that's usually where I draw. And I don't believe that I'm like a super accomplished drawer, but I like drawing. I find it fun and pleasurable. I like even just making silly caricature, goofy stuff. That is a fun thing for me. Drawing never felt like a challenge, and I don't know why, because I know that a lot of people feel that when they are put in front of a blank piece of paper, right? They feel that like, oh, I gotta make art. I don't have that. I feel very much like, oh, this is an opportunity to make something crazy. Yay, more costumes.
Oh my gosh, we've been in a whole different place for an hour.
You've been in a whole different place?
Victoria and Giancarlo, right? We've been in that Google Meet since 4 p.m.
So sorry. But we're here. We're here now.
There's a Google Meet? What is happening?
It was in the
It's okay. We don't want to distract you. You were saying cool stuff, and I want to hear what you were saying. Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry. Goodness. Planning for things. All right. Hi.
Hi.
So we were talking. Process, making art. Okay. Drawing, not feeling pressure, just wanting to be explorative. I think that's because I see it as playful and experimental. I'm not ever setting out to make art. And that's the biggest thing. I'm not making art when I am making art. I'm just creating, I'm doing stuff, I'm making things. And when images show up, or that it becomes this, you know, crisp painting after struggling for weeks on it, months, years, depends. It's a surprise to me that that's where it ends up, because that product wasn't in my mind when I started. I start with, let's see what happens. Let's put these things together. And oh, this is really interesting. This makes me think of this. And I will work on a painting and have this like experience where I'm asking the painting, what are you about? What are you telling me? What am I supposed to learn for myself from what I'm making here? Why did I pick these images? And so this is where I think that the conversation of like psychoanalytics actually folds in pretty well, is that I'm constantly questioning my own creative process of what am I making and why, and what does it mean, and what does that say about wherever I'm at in my own personal growth. So when suddenly I have this obsession with weeds and plants and vines, I'm like, what is this? What am I learning about myself in this process? And then when I paint, the painting process for me is actually very methodical. I came up from a professional painting degree background where we spent a lot of time learning about the types of paint and the chemistry of paint and color and light and composition, and making really structural design decisions about why you choose a warm yellow over cool yellow, and what does that mean to put it next to this specific turquoise blue over here and then use it differently in this other space, and how can you push and pull the space with color to make it more interesting and move the eye around. And so this is where my whole like user experience design comes into painting. And I am very careful about the decisions that I am walking through, intentionally designing in the painting, to make sure that the effect on the user at the end is the most impactful it can be. And so I'm thinking about, how do I make it an emotional experience that someone's going to resonate with my color choice, with the textures that I'm choosing, with the size of the painting that I'm choosing. Now in the digital world, some of that gets lost, right? But you can still have a sense of color and lightness and presence with this work, even through a digital experience. So I follow this path where it leads me. And sometimes it takes me down surprising things, but it is very much a planned and organized process in certain places. And then other places, it's intentionally chaotic. I allow that to happen because that's where I learn things. That's where new stuff just evolves. And you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, but that's cool. Let's do that again and see what happens. And then you go, oh, I can repeat that. And next time I can do it more intentionally, and I can leverage whatever I learned into the next thing. So there's this learning as you go. And if you always follow the same pattern every single time, which is part of what the story is about, you're not going to learn and grow. You have to make mistakes. You have to let chaos in to be able to find new opportunities. And that's a lot of what's in this art and a lot of what's in the story.
Amazing. Yeah, that's what I tell my students that I coach, performers, is that you have to be okay with failure. And that's that sort of chaos that comes in that helps you learn and grow and pokes and prods at you. That's how you get good at whatever art form you're doing, I think.
But it's scary, right? Like that's
it is, but it's also part of play and exploration, which is, I think, a huge part of you as a person, and I think your work as well. It's very playful. It's like has a serious, dense academic side where we can be like, oh, look on, but when it comes down to it, I see it as this sort of like dance between your playfulness and your seriousness.
It is a really good way to frame it. And I am constantly vacillating between those two sides of myself. I recently had a conversation about like, I think my authentic self is constantly in conflict of like, what is professional and what is unprofessional? And can I be this person but work this job? Or can I present this type of work and be this type of person? Can I look this way and do this type of work? It's always a juxtaposition that I don't think it's resolved. And I'm always changing. I'm always becoming something else. And I'm more comfortable now that I'm gonna just do things, and if it's not right, that's okay, I'll learn from it. But that's a hard position to take. It's a hard position to take because everything is against you in the world, against that. It is not a path that anyone opens up for you and goes, hey, we'd really love you to be your authentic self. Here you go. This is your passport to being authentic. We will make everything easy for you and we'll support you the entire way. That's not how it works, right? We have to fight, we have to struggle. And this is like that adversity thing, being your authentic self and making the work you want to make, being who you want to be. It's a balance. And you constantly are going to be in that process of doing, undoing, being, not being, growth, decay, process, repeating those cycles. And those themes are big in this.
Yeah, which really mimics nature. I mean, the process and the content both mimic nature in your work.
Yes. Victoria says we contain multitudes. Yes.
Yes. You're not a two-dimensional person. I will say that.
Well, that's a good connection to Rhizomatic if you want to segue there.
Let's go there.
Yeah, I added that because there is that book about we contain multitudes, but it's talking about how like our cells are only a little portion of what we carry around with us every day. And like it is things like fungus and bacteria, and those things change our mental state, and like it's constantly changing. And so that push and pull and that changing of the way you think is like such a real thing just from an atomic level.
I love that you see that and understand that, because that is something that did influence me. I was learning about microbiomes when I got early into this whole art exploration, this particular show, because I was doing all this research about my health and well-being, and I was struggling with depression and anxiety and insomnia and PTSD and all kinds of craziness. And so looking at my digestion and my microbiome, then you realize that you as a container, you're not a thing, you're not a singular thing, right? You are actually tons of different creatures all living in some sort of balance, and when those things get imbalanced, there are problems and different effects, but you're not a singular thing. And you know, I could probably get deep into this, but like learning about pronouns when you talk to yourself, the idea that you are a we and not an I changes how you relate to yourself and how you relate to others, and that we might not be it's so much more complex. I'm like going down like a thought path here, but yes. Yeah. So rhizomatic
thinking, let's talk about
this is what rhizomatic thinking looks like. Exactly. So biologically, when you look at plants and fungi, they have a certain type of root structure. And the rhizomatic root structure in particular is one that runs horizontally. It's not a root structure that goes deep down. Some plant structures do that, where they just tap roots and they go straight down. But rhizomes actually spread out, and it's about covering a diverse ground. But they connect and interlink and weave into each other and weave out. And in like critical theory philosophy, there are some writers, Deleuze and Guattari. So if you run into that D and G page, the one about rhizomatic is Deleuze and Guattari. I'm probably pronouncing them terrible because my French is awful. But they talk about rhizomatic thinking and using rhizomatic philosophy as an approach to how we look at problems and solve problems and make sense of things. So when you read a text, let's just take that. When you read a story, there's that first read where you go, okay, this story is about a character that does this thing and then ends up in this place. That's one pass. But what if you read it about why the character made those decisions, or you're looking at this in terms of a historical context, or you're thinking about how this relates to another piece of work. And so you start shooting out connections from the single thing out to all these other different spaces. And it's not just a single story that you're reading anymore. You're reading a story that's layered, and there's different things happening, and you're diverting from one path to another. And so this rhizomatic thinking and rhizomatic philosophy is not just about how we look at text and work, but also when you think about yourself. And you're not a single thing, you're a multitude. You are different in different contexts. You are not the same person when you're at work or in school or at home or with your partner. Those are different yous, and that's okay. That's important to go like, I can be whatever I need to be, depending on the context. And no one's gonna go, oh, you used a different word yesterday, and we would like to flag that, but you are not allowed to use those words because you can only be this. Those are not good situations, right? You don't want to be in that. And so thinking about rhizomatic as a philosophy, a life philosophy, right? Where you're allowing yourself to go and expand and go, all right, I'm looking for nutrients. I found some, this is great. I'm gonna explore more over here, and I'm gonna go over here, and no, that's poison, I don't want that. And so I started adopting this as a lifestyle. So I think when you're exploring the gallery, you will see these things come up of paths and looking for things and how they all connect and layer, and being able to see things in a multitudinal way, seeing layers, seeing multiplicities.
Yeah, I can't even begin to tell you how much I love that, and how it explains so much of, I would say me, but we, us.
Yeah. We agree.
But as far as the layering goes, I think that brings me to thinking about more of the surface of your canvas, and sort of like comparing it in my mind. As you know, I'm an art historian, and so I think about movements. So how do you think that your work fits into surrealism, and what other movements? I know that you mentioned abstract expressionism earlier. Do you feel the most influenced by, and how do those movements sort of like intertwine and relate to each other in this body of work?
Yeah. It's interesting that layers was your segue into this, because I do think that way. I think very structurally. I think that's part of being sort of left brain, right brain. So this idea of the work that I grew up on in my early painting career was very much the abstract expressionist work. I love the big gestural texture surface, intensely abstract but emotive and strong, powerful art. There's this feeling that you have when you're in front of these giant canvases. Most of them are huge, and that always appealed to me. there's big, and there's big marks and gestures and splatters, and like people are obviously active when they are making this work. And I love it because there's evidence of the artist in the painting that they make. And that is important to me, that like, it doesn't look like a photograph, it actually looks like a painting. And painting, the paint itself is the topic of the work. It is art about art making, art about process, art about paint, and what you can do with paint, and what paint means, and how you can make it mean things. And Monty Python influence your rhizomatic self. Yes. And that there's these, this art is, in some ways, it's juvenile, I guess, because it wasn't intended to really say something in particular. It was really an exploration. And if you look at this historical movement, it's mostly males, and they're mostly dealing with like, we're guys and we're going to do this, and you're going to see what's up, and that's what's happening, and we're making this art and we're going to put it in your galleries, and and that's kind of how I look at abstract expressionism now, where I'm at. I still like the work, but my work started to go a different path. And there was this time period where I was living in Dallas, and have some fabulous Dallas people. And I was making very angry work. It was dark, very angular, very gestural, and the emotive quality was definitely there. But it started to get into this sort of poetic space. It started to look more spacey, or more underwater, or more in a woods. And I was like, oh, there's something here. And that's how I started thinking differently, that I'm not an angry painter. I'm really not. And when I realized that, I was like, why am I making all these angry paintings? I need to really be making paintings that someone's gonna look at and they're gonna feel hope and inspired and connected, or it's gonna tell them a story that they go, I've been there, I know what that's like. And I did. I went from urban to nature. And when I moved to Seattle, this is when things started to change, is that I was influenced by all the nature around me. In Seattle, all the things blooming and the colors and the mountains, and it was just gorgeous explosion of sensory delights that I hadn't experienced before, especially living in Dallas, where you pretty much just have roads and that's it. And it's not beautiful. There are pretty parts. Dallas has great parts, but it's not the same as when you are surrounded by woods and nature and flowers and, you know, creatures and beautiful things and life, exploding with life. And Seattle felt that way. So my palette changed, and my painting started to be more influenced by the stories that I was going through and my own psychological experiments. And I started to, I think, soften up, both personally and in my art. And it does sort of shift from a bit more masculine, gendered style art to more feminine style art. And that's partially because I'm always going back and forth in my gender own fluidity spectrumness. This is the gender fluidity spectrum dance, in case anybody needed to dance along. I felt this need to express these things that were more beautiful. And it wasn't something that I was like really bought into at the beginning. Yeah, I just felt like I had to try it and see what happened. So little representational things started showing up in my art. Little petals, little leaves, flowers. Occasionally I'd draw something really representational. I started a painting that had a skull and teeth and rib cage. And after I lived with that painting for a little while, which is the painting that's behind you, Abby, actually, the Thorns painting became that painting. I just realized that I don't really feel these things. They're symbols that I've like pasted in an art, and I can paint them and they look real, and people will go, ooh, that's cool. But it doesn't say anything. It's like, it's a gimmick. And I didn't want to be making gimmicky art. I really didn't want to make gimmicky art. I wanted to make authentic art, and I didn't know what that meant. And by the end of this show, I did.
So how do you use symbolism then? Because if you look at surrealism, like one could argue, not to pick on surrealism, that that it can be a little gimmicky. You have all of these, like take Dali, you have all these different symbols crammed onto one canvas, and you're supposed to look at it and have some sort of Freudian analysis about what it means, which, not to poo-poo it, that's very cool. But like, how do you use symbolism in your work, and how do you sort of push it to the side? Because I do think that you touched on a really good point, that a lot of these movements, like abstract expressionism or even surrealism in a way, are sort of male movements.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also seem to reference Georgia O'Keeffe in your work as well. Not intentionally, probably, but
yeah.
I don't know, that was a lot just now that came up, but
yeah, no, there's a lot. So in thinking about surrealism, specifically, let's talk about that, which is that when I was younger, high school younger, right, I thought that I was making art because I could draw naked women with like broken wings and halos and angels and like weird random cherries hanging by strings and like mermaids. And I found a way to just basically what you're doing, go pick symbols, put interesting, compelling things together, and voila, I have this like interesting story that's a visual story. Hi, welcome. So surrealism was something that I toyed with when I was young, and it got an effect, right? It produced the effect where people go, oh, that's cool, I'd want that on my wall. And it was like, right, okay. Does it have any personal connection to me? No. Did I learn anything from it? No. And I realized that art didn't really make me happy. So I kind of left that space for a long time. And for years and years and years, I made surrealist art in the background. Like I always doodle weird things, but I never painted surrealism. I never painted figures either. I would try, I would start, and then I would be like, I don't want to make this, and I would paint over it and make some abstract work. I love color and paint, so that was always important to me. And what I didn't like about surrealism is that I don't care about photorealism. It doesn't interest me. I want the painter to be part of it. I want the art to be about paint and creation and this magic that happens. I think it's alchemy, where you transform ground up rocks and binder and water into something that looks like light and color and form. And like that to me is magic. And the whole process behind how paint becomes images to me is magic. And surrealism almost took that away because it's flat and it looks like a photo. And even if it's dreamy or it's doing things that aren't possible or realistic, it's still really flat, and particularly Dolly's work here. There are surrealists that I find interesting. Hieronymus Bosch would be one of them, and he's not really a surrealist. He's just weird. And I think that's why I like him, because he was like, what if I put a trumpet in your butt and then I turn you over upside down and you're growing out of a plant? I get it. I like it. I think it makes sense, because you're like, this is kind of right in some weird way. So Bosch is definitely an influence because it's all like stories and things happening. Whereas in most of surrealism, it's almost like you've frozen something in time. And I think that's the dream quality of it. But I don't have interesting dreams. I dream about going grocery shopping or picking office supplies. My dreams are stupidly banal. And this is this is what I imagine. This is my creative brain. And when I close my eyes, I see flowers, I see forms, I see vines and leaves, and I see things that don't exist growing in my brain. And I can see them so strongly that I have to draw them now. And so like literally I'm in the shower. This is totally a tangent now. I'm in the shower and it gets all steamy. And so I'm like drawing weird plant things, and I'm using both my fingers because this is fun to make like orchid shapes at the same time, because orchids are just orchids, amazing. But the diversity of orchids always interests me. Yes, yeah. So there's this thing about surrealism now that I'm interested in, how I can tell stories that aren't real. It's things that are familiar, but in a totally alien way. And so you're seeing plants and flowers and things that look sort of familiar, but they're doing things that don't make sense. And the way that I'm using surrealism is that I'm looking at things that are symbolic and iconic, but it's my own personal symbolism that I'm sharing. So there's a shape, a symbol that looks like a bubble or a pearl or a glob of something that's in a lot of different paintings. And to me, those are tears. Those are tears. And whenever you see those in the plants, like if you look at the arrangement, that particular painting is about making something productive out of painful experiences. And so you see the flower scooping up these tears and then like taking them back in, and then the light's coming back through the flower at the top. And so there's this kind of story event that's happening within the painting. Things are happening to the character, and the character is the flower. And so the stories that I'm trying to tell by using sort of surrealist imagery are much more personal, I think. But yeah, that was a long
explanation.
Amazing.
Yeah, it makes sense, what you're saying. Especially, you know, I have this Andre Breton quote. He said of surrealism that its aim was to resolve the previously contradictory conditions of dream and reality into an absolute reality, a super reality or surreality. And I think not that you deal with dreams in particular, but the whole alien work is your surreality or surrealism. So
yeah, I'm always sort of imagining this like mystical fantasy alien space place that you see in these paintings, right? That you all are now in, my mystical alien space plant place, which has a different light and things are glowing and glittery and sparkly, and there's death and decay, but there's also growth and beauty, and the things that are growing aren't normal, but they're interesting and inviting in some way. And so yeah, there's this like environment that I've created that is the place that I go to when I make art.
yeah, and I love your palettes. I don't know if you found any photos to throw up. I know
Yes.
you know how much I love your palettes, but when I look at your palettes, I think abstract expressionism, because they are so textured. But then when I look at the surface of your work, even though there's layers in it, it seems a lot flatter than what your palette would be. Oh, good, you're going to screen share. Yeah, check out that palette, you guys. I love the palette.
This is my current studio setup. I don't always have one palette. I usually have two because I like to have space. But yeah, my palettes definitely
like delicious. Like that's the word that comes to mind. They look edible.
like it. Yeah, I've started organizing all my colors rainbowy order, so there's all the warms and cools, and then there's like browns and blacks at the bottom. But I think I found a few other images. So this is that's a photo of just the palette. So yes, it is. The back and front of my palettes usually look like art pieces in their own right. And it's because I layer my palette. I don't clean it off ever. I just let it get really heavy until I can't hold it anymore. And then I get rid of it and I get a new one. So I have lots of old palettes that I'll carry around for years until it's just like, why am I carrying this? No one's going to actually want to buy my palette.
maybe a palette art show someday.
Someday, for whatever I've kept left later. But yeah, I like arranging the palette in a specific way. And earlier this year, when the pandemic started and I was doing some online training and tutorial stuff, I was doing the Powers Paints shows on YouTube. You can still find them. I was talking about how I set up my palette and why I set it up a certain way, because I love neon colors and I love bright, ridiculous colors, but I also buy paint that's like really nice and really cheap, because I want the really cheap paint because it doesn't have much pigment in it. So I can do great layering with it and make interesting washes and things like that. The really nice paint that's got tons of pigment, I want it for certain things. So I'm like totally open to buying cheap, weird paint because I can do something with it. It's not that I'm using it for, painting certain things. So it's important to think about that. But I also, you can see there's like no black, no brown, almost all my work that's dark, my colors there, is a mixture of transparent colors mixed together to try to get these layers and layers of things. I do a lot of washes, and I like to go through this like process when I'm painting where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do a dark pass, and I add all the places where I would think there would be shadow. I'm putting it in quotes because it's not real. And then I would come in and do a layer where the light would hit things. And so I have this like back and forth constantly of modeling, but thinking in terms of light. And I try to think about light and color more than anything, really. And the palettes really emphasize that for me. See if there's any more good ones. Oh, there's me being all fancy.
And then of course your hair. Your hair is always very colorful.
Oh, there's Zucchini.
Oh, his cone of shame.
This was one of the paintings that's in the show, the masculinity blossoming when I had started it. And you can see kind of what that looks like at the beginning. And the big palette.
I love it. I love it. I have no segue, but I have like a few things I still wanted to talk about with you.
Sarah's got a question about what brand of acrylics do I like best? If I had all the money in the world, I would buy, I really like Golden. Golden is great. There's a company called Nova Color that also makes really nice paint. But really, I use anything. I love Liquitex, and you can even get like really nice quality from the Michaels brand or Dick Blick brand. It just depends on what you want to do. So there's no like one perfect art supply. It's all based on what do you want to make and why. What do you want to make people feel out of the work you want to make, and choosing a different type of medium or size, or all those formal aspects of what you're going to make to design the type of work you want to make.
Oh, what kind of
That
brushes?
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't on my list of questions to ask, but I was like, I wonder what kind of brushes she uses, and like how many different types of brushes do you use to complete like one painting?
That's actually a funny question. I love cheap brushes. and I've found that like my own personal joy in the painting process, when I start a painting, especially one that's like bigger than this. Any painting bigger than this, I get really excited to start because I get to use my big brushes. And I really love using big brushes. And it makes me so happy just to do like big physical painting and to be like connected to the work that's human size. Well, Kristen human size, I should say. Kristen human size is about 5 foot. So work that's about 30 by 40, getting to work on that feels amazing because I'm in that piece. And hearing Victoria's comment there, my favorite thing about all the microbes that make up Kristen is that she's also part of her paintings. There's no boundary for painting and person. So true. This is like things that I'm really realizing about myself, is how much like art and life and Kristen and painting are just, and that's the right noise. Because I have trouble finding where those things peel apart. And I am excited about brushes. So I'm going to go back to brushes. Big freaking brushes I love to start with, usually 2 inches if I can get away with it. And I use the ones that are square brushes, so I can get a thin line and then a big thick line. And I do a gestural pass. That's usually where I start. And I try just to get the movement down. That's the first thing I really care about. How am I going to move someone through this painting, through this space that I'm creating? And I like being able to like really make it physical and not get concerned about details at all. And that's one of the things that I think new artists encounter a lot, is that they want to make it look like a final piece of art before they're really there yet. And they're trying to make it look like something finished, but they're not actually giving themselves time to work through that process. And I love that process. I love the different stages of a piece of work. Some stages are more fun than others. That beginning stage is exciting. It's fun. It's engaging. It's so big and gestural and da da da. Way down the line, let's look weeks later, move a painting down into a certain stage of doneness. Then we get into really tiny brushes. And I'm sitting there like this close to a painting, spending hours doing little ditty bitty details. And that was not something I ever really spent time on before. It was not something I enjoyed before. I avoided it. I thought that getting into that like nitty gritty detail, I don't know. I think at one point in my work, it felt like it wasn't me, and now it is. And now I do love those little the little details. Now when I get to paint like sparkles on things, oh my gosh. Or when there's like a little edge light on something or a little rim on a piece of a petal, I get totally into it. I never was like that before, because there's something really delightful about bringing something to life. And that's kind of what it feels like now. Is I'm moving from this like sculptural, big gestural experience to starting to craft and sculpt it and pushing and pulling the forms and creating dark and light. And then I'm starting to refine more and more and bringing it to life. And so that set of stages that I go through, it feels different every time, but that process it's like the part that I love. And when I have a piece that's finished and I go, all right, that's what I made. All right. You know, the end product is such a detached experience from the process that made it. And I'm never sure how people are gonna feel about my work, because I feel like I go through this like crazy psychoanalytic therapeutic process of questioning everything in my world when I'm making work, and then it's done. And how do I know when I'm done? That's a good question. I don't, but I do. And there's a sense of when you're working on a painting and you know what you're trying to say. I see it like when you've finished a complete sentence and you've completed a thought. Then you can look at a painting and go, that's a clear thought. I've said all I needed to say. Or you go, it's still not there yet. And it's some weird magic voodoo to make those decisions. And sometimes I make that decision and I go, it's done. And I put it on a wall and then I look at it and then I decide it's not done. And so it's undone. And I take it off the wall and I put it back on the easel and I paint over it. And that's okay. Many of these paintings have had prior lives. In fact, most of the paintings that you all have chosen have had prior lives where they were totally different paintings. Not the paintings at all that you're seeing. They're completely different paintings because it was something that I painted and then decided, nope, that's not what I wanted to say. Or actually, I can say that better a different way. And it's just like a thing that I'm open to. I don't ever feel like there's finality. I don't ever feel like there's a sense of I need to be done with something. I'm okay just continuously always being open to making something different. And that's a life philosophy and an art philosophy. And so if you buy a painting for me and you live with it for 3 years and you go, we'd really like it to be updated. If you put it in front of me, I can pretty much promise that I'll be like, oh my gosh, I see all these things I want to do to it. And I'd probably put it on my easel and start painting on it.
Yeah, I was wondering if you found your process more intentional or intuitive or a combination of both, or how those two, they seem like they would be diametric or opposing, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're woven together.
I definitely think they're woven together. And it, for me, is different parts of the process work better at different stages in the work. So early on in the process, I'm really experimental. And for anyone who follows my art stuff, this year was highly experimental. I was doing random weird scanner art. I was painting my face and putting it on a scanner. I was pouring colored water and making bubbles on the scanner. I was doing all kinds of random stuff, making spinner art, which is what you can win tonight. And I just needed newness. And so there's this part of the feeding the tortoise, right? Of new things, of experimenting, of being playful and seeing what happens. And then coming out of it to go, okay, what can I use from that to make my paintings better? I think everything has to feed into a better painting, because painting for me is kind of the core of all the art things that I do. So I am experimental in parts of it, and then I get really thoughtful. So this idea of being really careful about the design and the decisions and the thoughtfulness of how it's going to affect the end user. So the person who's looking at the work in the final stages of it being presented. I am highly influenced by Edgar Allan Poe in this space. And I think a conversation about process is a good example here. If you have a tab open, go open The Philosophy of Composition, which is an essay that Edgar Allan Poe wrote. And it is an essay about his creation of the poem, The Raven. Now, for anyone who hasn't read this, I'm going to spoil it for you, but it'd still be super interesting. And the spoiler is this: it wasn't a magical, romantic, angels came down and spoke words in Edgar Allan Poe's ear, and he wrote this beautiful thing. It was very thoughtfully designed, down to the sound of each word that you would say, how many lines it was going to be, how long it would take you to read it, and like constructed with mathematical precision. That's the type of art that fascinates me when it produces an effect that looks romantic and loose and creative and gestural. That balance is what I love. And so that's a good place to think about process for me, is that I want structure and design and thoughtfulness, but I also want openness to creativity and thinking differently and room for chaos.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think how your brain functions in particular affects how you create work? Like, how does neuroscience sort of, how is that involved in your body of work, or even for the viewer?
Yeah, well, I think there's sort of this sense of whenever I'm excited about a topic and researching about that topic, it shows up in my work. And so anytime I'm looking into mushrooms or gut microbiome or neuroscience and how narrative impacts our brain and the different type of chemicals and hormones that are produced when we have certain emotional responses, I have that stuff sort of come in and it shows back up in ways that I don't always expect. But in terms of recent things with neuroscience impacting this work, is I've been really interested in how neurogenesis works, and this is creating new neurons, and the idea of something that you can rewrite and you can start over in some way, and that the brain is highly plastic and flexible, and that you're not something static, and it's not a one direction, this is who you are, and these are the patterns you're going to be forever. That there's actually more options and opportunity. And so learning about that sort of neuroscience side of our brain and what's possible affects thinking about who you are and how you define yourself and your own personality and what makes you you, what is important in who you are. And when I was going through this work early on, there was this moment where I was like starting from scratch, trying to figure out who I was. And when I say who I am and who I was, it's like, I mean that very literally. I had no idea what I was going to be because I had to give up on everything and start over. So it was really this weird fresh start, painful, but I realized that I was a creator. That word, creator, I'm a creator. I make things, I make stuff, I come up with things, I invent stuff. That is all that matters to me. And so moving from like this psychological side of things and the neuroscience things and dealing with my own trauma and going to therapists and then making art, it all sort of like mishmashed together. The work that I produced has these underlying themes of how do we think about ourselves? How do we talk about ourselves? What do we do when we are making relationships with people? And a lot of this work is about relationships and self and struggle. That we've touched on a lot of this stuff already, but it's hard to tease apart where things are showing up because it's like enmeshed in it. And I'm sure if someone came through and like an outside perspective psychoanalytically looked at this work, I would probably be concerned for myself. But you know, that's what happens when you're breaking rules and you're doing weird stuff. Is you're not going to get the pass to be like, oh, everything's fine. I think I'm trying to find ways to push people's buttons in a gentle, friendly way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everybody will see something different when they look at your paintings, and they might or might not necessarily see what your meaning in creating it was, or your process. But I think that learning about what that painting means for you definitely helps inform the viewer, and gives them their own sort of view on what it means for them. It's sort of like a Rorschach. Is that how you say it, Rorschach? Inkblot? Rorschach. No.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I avoid things that are like overly direct. It's because I don't want to put a story in front of someone and say, this is the only story that I'm telling. And if you don't resonate with that story, then it's not of interest to you. I want to leave room for interpretation. That's important. One of the things that I really dislike about like the art world is when you go into a museum or gallery and all the work is crap, but people love it because the story about the artist and why they made it is really interesting. And it's like, but the art is not. The art is not interesting. It's not well done. It's not technically well done. There's no thought about composition or design. Your eye doesn't know where to go. There's no thoughtfulness about color. Like, I hate that. And so when I think about
minimalism or conceptual art,
I am not at all. I mean, there's some things like I love Richard Serra. His work
is beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's got texture, and the sound changes when you're in Richard Serra's work, and it creates an environment that's actually emotionally changes you, and I love that. But yeah, most minimalism and conceptual art doesn't do it for me. I like work where the work speaks for itself, and it should impact you in a relationship with you. You should have the interaction with the work. So when someone goes, I love this piece, I want this piece, I want to make them have it because that's important. I've had my relationship with the work. Now it can be your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever partner. Like
the art world, when I was getting my master's in art criticism and in theory, the art world's very focused on theory, and in my experience, very divorced from personal experience. And talking about personal experience is sort of poo-pooed in academic spheres and academia, and the white cube environment. And I think that's one of the things that started pulling me away from academia. I was like, I don't. If it's seen as unacademic to talk about personal experience and interpretation, then I'm not sure I want to do this.
Yeah, I don't see how art can be anything else. Like for me personally, I find that when I am doing work just to make work for someone else, or like if I have to do commercial artwork, gosh, that's an awful experience. I don't find that I can't put myself into it, and so I'm not connected to it, and so my art's not as good. The only work that I produce that's good is when I'm like fully in it and going through it, and I'm like going through the ringer to make it, and it's like that whatever trauma that gets squished out of me and onto the painting is what makes it awesome. And if that didn't happen, then it probably wouldn't have the same effect. And I agree, like when in any field really, like where you have to divorce the fact that you're a human with emotions from whatever you do, and that could be in any sense, I think that that's wrong. That's the perverse thing. That's the thing that's not okay.
Yeah, I remember I was reviewing a piece in grad school by Shireen Nishat, and it was a piece about rape, and I gave it a good review. And the professor told me that he explained to me that it wasn't good art because it was personal, and that the only reason I liked it is because I must have had a personal experience with the topic.
Oh my goodness.
And I was at that. I think that was the moment where I was like, you know what, the art world isn't for me. I think I'm done with this.
I hate that I'm unmuted just for that. Like, Abby, it hurts my heart that something, a man saying a thing like that could make somebody that is interested in art and creating art could like make a person walk away from it. So don't let that person do that to you. Don't do
Oh,
it.
it was a lot more than that. The whole art world is really impersonal and academic, and the curatorial speak that you're required to do about any writing is very divorced from any personal meaning or soul. And that was probably just the straw that broke the camel's back. But.
Yeah.
Here
Also,
I'm gonna
F that guy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it. I think that so I'm hopeful that in our current moment of pandemic chaos, that new methodologies, new modes of thinking, new ways of sharing and presenting and connecting are possible. And that's why this matters, is because those people had control before because there were limitations that they could manage. They can't manage those same limitations now. There's so many people who are out there doing totally bizarre shit because they can, and right now no one's stopping them. And people are finding that those things are gonna grow and it's gonna connect, and new stuff is going to erupt out of this that I think will really put those things in a different space where the audience cares more about personal connection. The audience cares more about the story, and the audience wants these things, and the audience and the eyeballs are the same now because people aren't going and spending money in shops. It's changing, and galleries have to change. Art people have to change.
Yeah,
I
see it
great
as
force and function.
Yeah, I see it as a sort of a hope for the democratization of the art world.
True. I like that idea.
Well, I think that's probably all of my questions, but if you have anything else that I missed, or if anybody else has questions for our lovely artist, Kristen.
I am going to, I have some slides, show pictures, I'll share some pictures of process type things so that people can get an idea for what it looks like of when I'm working through things. So I have a whole album that I have in totally random order. So this is not a story that I'm telling in any specific way. I'm just going to share some pictures that are art in the making, art processes, so you can see what it looks like when I make stuff. So the first one that I thought would be funny to share is when I was talking about the heavy surrealist symbolism painting that I was working on. This is it. And this is the start of it, where I was like, oh, skull, hand holding a skull, and there's this eyeball that's looking at this weird moon thing, and I think it's interesting, right? And people online, like Instagram, went crazy over this. And it's like pop surrealism. And that movement is super popular. But it's not me. It's not me. And I sat with this painting for a long time, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish it. And I started working on it. And let's see if I have any more of those painting pictures in here. Oh, there's the original. Actually, like, this is the sketch for that painting. So you can see where I start. Shape, movement, really generic, just feeling things out. And I worked on that painting in a live show where I decided, instead of making it work as a surrealist painting, I was just going to start painting over it. So I was covering up all the different parts of it, but you could still kind of see the skull in the background. So for those of you who have the thorn background up, that's
right.
Yeah, that is what's hidden back in there. Is there's a skull back there. But I was able to just sort of see it differently. But some other good ones in here. this is a good start of what it looks like when I am working on something. And I think I started this one actually in one of the Powers Paints episodes as well.
Yeah, I think
So
I
I had-
actually watched that one.
Yeah, I had the sketch, and I had a sense that this was about something growing and flourishing and doing well, and that there was this like, and you see me gesturing, right? And when I talk, I gesture wildly because movement is important, not just in the art, but in my body, because it helps me think. So anybody who wants to nerd out with me on embodied cognition, Daniel, if you're still listening, there's an important part of who we are, that the thinking and the doing and the being is very much tied together, and you cannot separate mind and body like people do in stupid books. And so I'm gonna just say that. But this movement, this idea of things sort of like spiraling and flourishing, and also referencing like this idea of flourish, like in a font text flourish, is these like little swirly bits on things, and they're usually plant and flower or like nature reference flourishing things. So I was interested in those ideas, and I usually have like 10 things going on in my brain when I am thinking through things. So it's not like I'm gonna make a painting about this one topic. It's like, no. I have these like 30 things that I want to say, and it's all blah, 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 at once. That's what this is like. So flourish. And what you're seeing is at a different orientation than the final painting, because I don't paint one direction. I change the painting as I'm painting on it, so that I am constantly reevaluating it. It forces me to go, that looks different. Why does it look different? Do I like the way this looks? What's working in this way? And sometimes I change what I'm making because suddenly I see a different opportunity when I've rotated it. So this painting is actually being painted upside down. Now, it wasn't upside down when I was making it because I wasn't sure of what it was going to be yet. So you'll start to see that those things sort of evolve with me, and I like having that option. But I had decided the composition. I had decided some of the major forms. There's those little tear symbols that I referenced before. And that's the flourish painting. That is this one. Was there any particular paintings that people wanted backstories on? Because I might have some stuff on things. Still around?
I think I remember when you were in Dallas, and by the way, like as a person that grew up in this area, I saw your work change when you moved, and I suspect that it's like the same thing my brain personally needs, because you see this like concrete jungle. You see all the streets and the buildings, and your work, you're right, it was super angular. You had one piece in your garage when you were painting. You had a little garage and you were painting there, and it was the opposite of all the other colors in all of your work. And I remember seeing that piece and going, that's my favorite piece. And it almost looked like that was your one piece where you were trying to break out of the dark. You had a lot of darkness in your other paintings. You were trying to like break out and find the light. And you kind of, you probably brushed it off because you were like, you didn't think much of it. But I saw like there was a spark there. And I'm just wondering if you remember the painting I'm talking about, and like have any thoughts about that. It was like a lighter pinky color, still in your very angular stuff.
Yeah, there were a couple sort of like transition pieces.
I think it's that one, 98 maybe. 3398.
This one was this is one of those paintings that went through several transitions. So this was a painting that I started in Dallas. You are correct. At the time, it was vertical, and it was more pink. You are correct. I didn't know what I was doing. There were paintings that I made in college that were all pink and sort of pastel, and it was about skin and surface and seeing us as containers. and how we are very, I didn't know, permeable containers, and that this idea of us as a shell, but as a shell that has openings, was very interesting to me. And I had also in my mind pictures from Pompeii. The human forms are these like shell containers of what the human used to be after this event. And so there were these concepts of human surface shell container, permeable vulnerability. That was the thought of that series of paintings. And this painting that you saw before it became this one is all like that stuff. So thematically, it definitely carried over earlier ideas of expressing these human psychological things with other forms, and trying to find a way to talk about these human states and very human-centric concepts, but using non-human things to say them. I'm sure I have more that kind of touch on that too, but it might be that one. But yeah, I started going like really pastel for a while, kind of just playing out what that looks like. This is one of the first ones where I started to get a little representational. And funny story about this painting, this one had like 3 lives also. And the skull part of the moon and the teeth was the last version that I did on it, where I was like, oh, whoa, that's kind of neat. What's going on there? Maybe I should explore that and do more of this. And so this shape, you guys look right here, this shape, and then you think about that thorns painting in the background of that shape is the same shape that's come back again, because I'm really interested in certain particular shapes. So there's a lot of things that sort of repeat in patterns in my work. I did do some test runs with flowers way back. This is also a Dallas painting. And this was completely an experiment of like, I need to just remind myself that I can paint representational things, that I am a painter of value and accreditation. And that's what people care about, right? Is that you can paint things that look realistic. Because when you teach painting and you're an abstract painter, it's a little confusing for your students to go like, well, can she really paint? And then I'm like, no, I really can paint, I promise. So this was why I made this painting. I see a question from Nicole about the arrangement piece, and I do have lots of pictures of that one, so I'm gonna exit out.
I think I have to excuse myself. My lovely
No
husband cooked a Shabbat dinner, so we're gonna go light candles and be Jewy. But
Hey, Abby, thank you for hosting and asking the questions.
yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure. I love talking about art and being nerdy, especially with Kristen.
Well, thank you very much, and everyone go check out the High and Low Gallery from Abby. She is the creator of that.
Thank you. Okay, enjoy. Hope you don't one thing with my cheating. No, I'm kidding. The other people. No. All right, bye guys.
Bye. All right, I am going to find the backstory pictures for the arrangement because I do have quite the history of that one. Were there questions that I missed? Because I know that we got off onto all kinds of topics. And I'm going to do the drawing for the prize in about 14 minutes. And there are 3 paintings that I'm giving away.
The one other question I had too was from earlier, all of the narrative for each of the pieces through the experience. That was there's just the curious if that it was something that's always been with you as you've been going through with these pieces, or these came to you as you were putting all of this together.
Yeah, that was a great question. All right, so I'll answer this in sort of like a series of pictures, I think, which is that like, let's see if I have any good ones. Yeah, that's a good example. I think in words and pictures. I am bye Victoria, thank you. I am always writing sort of like poetic snippets and like little phrases. In all my notebooks are just as much words as pictures. I have a sketchbook just so I can give you an example. And like literally, it's like, oh, it's just all text. just lots and lots of text, and then random drawings. I don't know what's going on in these. I think I was drawing costume things. Oh, I was drawing the mushroom headdress. That's what that is.
Oh, cute. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's what I'm wearing. That's funny. But I think very much in a verbal form. I think that's part of my background, that, you know, I did creative writing. And so when I'm like working through any ideas, I'm also writing words with them, and I'm just jotting down things that resonate with me verbally as well as with the imagery. So when I did one of the art experiments earlier this year, we start with words. And I think that's sort of part of it, as I start with words many times as a way to ignite my sketching brain of what resonates with me when I hear this word, or what kind of shapes do I think about when I feel this particular emotion. So I do that sort of ideation phase with words, and then I stop and I put it away. And that's when I start thinking about the painting. And so the painting evolves from these things. This, I think, was one of the first ones that I did, where like I didn't start with anything but a word or a little drawing. But I never know what's going to happen during that. And that's where there's a back and forth with the painting and a conversation that happens. And what I end up with is not always what I started with. So this idea of the narrative for this show wasn't something that I'd really thought about until I decided that I was going to do it online. And suddenly there was this opportunity of, oh, now I can put words to it. Now, before, I had been planning a gallery show, but I wanted it to be a performance event. I wanted it to be like actors and dancers and people in costumes and like theater events and like weird elfie gnome people serving you mushroom drinks and like costume big sets. That was the gallery experience I had planned before pandemic. And then I can't do that. So I had to really rethink it. And the creation of these stories and poems, it happened really naturally. I just would like sit down, I would write, I would leave it, I would come back and look at it again. I probably did 3 or 4 edits on all of it just to see it, you know, continually craft it. In most of my creative work, I approach similarly, which is the first thing I do is I just throw a bunch of shit out, and it's a big mess. And then I start carving things away and going, no, don't need that, don't need that. That just confuses things. No, I really don't need that. This is what I really want to say. And then I just get it really, really, really tight until I'm exactly specifically saying the thing that I need to say. And that's whether I'm writing a paper or making a painting. I have to kind of put everything out and then figure it out. And that is good for me because I need to do that first to be able to get that part. It just doesn't work the other way. If I try to make that part first, what happens is I'll get it to a certain place and then I'll be like, oh, it's not right. Like there's something missing. It might look finished or done, like a state of doneness, but like I have no connection to it. I feel like I've just taken a picture of something and put it in front of myself, and it's not right. It doesn't feel right. So I have to go through that like the messy part of art making, which is important. So when I was writing, I went through that messy process. I wrote a whole bunch, I edited it all back, and then I added it and refined it. And I think it worked out for me. I in all the conversations about done and undone, oh my gosh, to know that I can at any moment go in and update a single page and it changes the experience, or I can change the links and connections to this. I am sort of fascinated by making this a perpetual, weirdly growing thing. And that's kind of a fun opportunity that I didn't think I could have with an art gallery, right? So yeah, there's that.
Awesome, yay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, fantastic. I do want to show you the arrangement, and then Sarah's asking about, oh, the wings. I think that's the love painting, love flows. Fantastic. All right, and we have just a few minutes. If you haven't found treasure areas to put your name in, that's the last little step for getting entered into into the contest. I'm talking a lot. So let's see, where's my arrangement sketch? Where did I start that one? Oh, there we go. So the arrangement painting had an idea behind it. I knew this was something I wanted to paint because there is a time that I think about art and drawing and making images, and that's when I can't sleep. So it's not a dream state, it's literally a can't sleep state that I get these images. And so I knew that I wanted this picture where the plant was somehow interacting with itself. And there was something going on where it was producing something and consuming something, and there was a cycle that was being described. And something in that cycle was painful, and something in it was being transformed. And so I knew these were the components that I wanted to work with for this painting. And when I started sketching it, this was actually a fun experiment also that happened this year, was playing with Prismacolors. Not something I anticipated. A friend brought me a gift set, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember these from like high school. Let's play with this again and see what happens. And it was fun because it strangely worked like paint because I could layer and build it up and make it really thick. And so that was cool. I didn't anticipate that. So I was playing with Prismacolors in this painting, drawing first, and had that idea. See, the early things, strangely enough, are pretty similar in this one. It's one of the few that I think I had a real solid idea from. And I started on a canvas that already had a background. And it was a background where I'd painted a whole bunch of colors. And in very typical Kristen fashion, I took a expired credit card and started scraping all the paint off and then slicing into the paint to make those like weird gestural patterns. So that's maybe it's a library card, maybe a credit card probably. But I save any of those hard plastic things. Are great to make art with. Save them, don't throw them away. They don't degrade anyway, so you're better off saving them and using them for art. So this one was the first pass of putting together just the shapes in the space. What I later learned as this painting developed was that because I'd had these like weird dark areas to light areas to medium tone areas, I created a lot of problems for myself starting this painting this way. I really hated this background once I got further into this painting and realized that I just caused all kinds of problems for myself having that much excitement with the colors in the background. I should have been more thoughtful. And that's the lesson I keep learning. It's like, if I actually spend time planning a painting, it goes pretty well. I just really like making messes and mistakes. And so there's that, how much struggle do I want to have? That's the push-pull I'm now dealing with, is how much struggle am I willing to put up with to just get a piece of art done? I think I have, this one actually is a little animation that goes through the stages of the arrangement. So it's just those layers, adding color, adding dark, adding light, moving things around. I worked on this painting a long time, just trying to get it right. I think I was having trouble figuring out the full story because I wanted it to make sense. And when I say sense, I mean like I wanted there to be an internal logic to the painting and that it works together in some way. I really find that important. People are leaving. Oh, but thank you everybody for coming. Let's see what else about the arrangement. So I think when I finished it, I had to move things a bunch in this one too. Yeah, I had to keep moving this back one and the one that ended up over here because I didn't like where they were. But that's the thing. I just constant process. All right, so the next one was about love flows, I think. The one that you wanted to ask about. Oh, there's the finished arrangement.
I didn't realize I was like not hovering over and I didn't see the name when I asked about it. I was like, the one with the wing things. Oh, there's the name.
That's all good. I knew what you meant. And that's interesting that you see the wing things. Where's that painting? Sorry, you're seeing all my mess of stuff here. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's when I was painting it. Oh, wait, there it is. So I had a drawing. That's what I wanted to show you. It's the drawing. There we go. For this one, where I had made the drawing in Prismacolor, and it was a little like 8x10 drawing. And this drawing had like specific happy feels, right? So my partner and I were on vacation. We were at this beach. It was lovely, had a great day making art. And this was one of the sketches I made when we were out on this fantastic date day. And there were like personal things going on, right? Very happy. And I just felt like things were just coming out of me naturally, and I was feeling very at ease. And water is very important to me in lots of different ways, lots of layered ways. And so there were elements of the sea and parts of the ocean and fish and fins and things about seaweed getting like caught up together, but like being able to spread and be open and wide. These are the things that were influencing this painting. And as it started to come together, it was like this like underwater love fest that I was creating.
Oh, so those are fins. Okay, I can see that. Yes, they're gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, they're wings too. They're both. It's not just one thing.
True.
That's the rhizomatic thinking. It is both. Yes, and. Yes, and. All right, we are getting close to the time that I'm going to give away Arts to Fun Peoples. Let's see, we have 36 responses, and I'm going to open this up and do a random number generator and then count and find you. Random number generator. This is how we do games. Does anyone here want to win art? Just maybe? Cool. I want you to win art too. I just want to give you all art. Can I do that? I just don't want to ship you anything. That's the problem. I hate shipping. If there's anything Christians have anxiety about, it's postal service. All right, sorry, I got totally distracted. All right, so I am going to share the random number generator in a moment. And where is my spreadsheet? I'm going to create the spreadsheet. Creating spreadsheets, yeah! Creating spreadsheets, yeah! All right. So I have between the numbers 2 and 36, I will pick a line to find where you are. Well, I don't want to share anybody's email. That's not safe. Never mind. Sorry. I'm not going to share. Cancel. Go away. Okay. I'll share the random number generator. That's more fun. Because everybody loves that, right? Okay, so between 2 and, what did I say, 36? 36. Generate number 13. All right. Now this, I'm gonna stop this there, and then I'm gonna find who's number 13. Who's number 13? Lori Powers. Lori Powers is not here, but I will contact her off of the show. And then we get to do another one. Okay. Let's go.
That was pretty great. 13 on the 13th.
I didn't even plan that. All right, we're going to do another one. Ready? Whoosh! It should make a noise, right? All right, we're gonna.
Why would we have you to make the noise?
true. This is true. All right. Who is number 20? I can't see because it's got too many tabs open. Go away, stupid tab. Number 20 is Della. Della, you have won one of the paintings, and I will contact you after the show to ship that to you. That's exciting. Della, you've got quite the Kristen Powers art collection going now.
I do. I love it. I need more.
I'm okay with this. I will keep making art. This is not a problem for me. It's a problem for my house because I just collect it and it piles up. But I am happy to give it away to people who will appreciate it. All right, one more. Okay, generate numbers. 6. All right, we're gonna see who is number 6, and that is Ms. Abby. Abby has 1. And I am going to give her art. And because I'm feeling generous, I want to give one other way. A surprise piece. I don't know what it is. How about I'm just going to like surprise you all. Who wants a surprise piece of art? Jury number 13. No, that's not fair.
Lucky number.
I don't feel confident in this number generator anymore. All right, well, maybe that's a sign. Okay, I'm gonna stop my that was weird. 2 times. All right, the creep factor. Woo. I get my spook going. That's what's happening. My spookiness and your spookiness. All right, friends. So we have art giveaways. I can keep talking through some random background of sharing paintings if you have questions, but please keep exploring, and I'm having fun with my art party.
It's so great. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have you taken a selfie for me? Have you gotten there?
I've taken so many selfies tonight. Now I've got
there's like a place to take a selfie in the event.
Oh, where?
You have to find it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm exploring.
All right, good. And then you upload a selfie for me. Yes. Wynn, you look fantastic. I want to take selfies with you. I like it. Would you like to hear more background on paintings and drawing and process things?
Yes, please.
Any questions about things? I know I have randomness. I always have randomness. This one else is. Okay. Can anyone guess which painting this is? What this ended up as? If you've come across the Femininity Nurture Mechanized, this is that painting. And the very first pass of it, where I was really just playing with knowing that there was some sort of like rar thing coming. Rar, that was what's happening. Is I knew that there was a rar thing. I didn't know about the rest of it yet, but there was a rar thing. That was important. And I also was playing with metallic paint in this. That was something new this year also, where I allowed myself to experiment with iridescent and metallic paint, which really is verboten in like verboten in like professional art world to use metallic or glitter or iridescent. And those are gimmicky paints to professional artists. And I was like, no, they're fun, and I'm going to use them in a way that makes sense to me. So I've been layering things with metallic and iridescent things in the paintings because it produces an interesting light effect, and that interests me. Is how do I have these special effects that add to the painting and contribute to the story using that? So that's where that one started. kind of easel to use? Where did you find it? Oh my gosh. My easel is like almost 20 years old. I think, oh gosh, where did I get it? I think my parents bought it for me when I was like in art school, so I really don't remember. I'm sure you can find one similar online. It does. I usually put my feet through it and like sit in it, like up close and personal to the paint. But this is kind of the next evolution of that painting. And that's Zucchini. He's adorable. But you can see the other painting down here. That's the masculinity painting I was also working on at the same time. I am very frequently working on multiple things at one time. It is abnormal for me to have one work in progress. I normally have anywhere between 5 and 10 pieces of some sort in different states. Bye, Nicole. Thank you for coming. I hope you had fun. I like to be able to have multiple things going, because if I have them at different stages, then I'm getting to activate those different parts of my brain, the processes that I like. Some of them are really gestural and new and loose, and then some of them are needing really tight, focused, close work. And having all the different art at the different stages allows me to bounce between those things, because I like all of them just differently. So this painting and the masculinity painting, I was doing that. I was sort of bouncing between them, and they're a conversation. Those two paintings were very intentionally things I was exploring about myself and how I felt about gender roles and what it means to be defined as something feminine and defined as something masculine. And I'm particular about, I'm not talking about male and female, I'm talking about the terms masculine and feminine. And those particular terms get thrown around in ways that become like derogatory or bizarrely connected to things that are completely out of context. And I wanted to explore the sort of aspects of what would be considered masculine, what would be considered feminine, but through nature and through things like petals and flowers and claws and nails and teeth and sharp things and butterflies. And what do all these things say about masculine and femininity? Bye, Tia. Thank you for joining so much. Mwah. This has been super fun. And so that's kind of the exploration that was happening in these paintings as they went together. Oh. I have another one that started out as a sketch that was kind of interesting, and that's the boundaries of adaptation. And this is a little sketch. This is only maybe 6 by 8, and it's ink. It's the really fine Stabilo pens that are like 1 point. They're super tiny. And I was drawing this weird, almost alien pod drawing thing. And I do a lot of doodles like this. This is very common Kristen doodles, where it's just these weird gestural shapes that are dancing in some weird way. And that is where I think this one started. As I was thinking about insects and liquid and some sort of like alien evil poisony thing that was part of this. And you can see early ideas of like, there's little skulls. There's like hints of weird darkness in this from like the early stages, as I was drawing like rib cage things, and anatomical imagery was starting to come in it. And when I started it as a painting, I decided to do it on a bright pink background, because I really wanted to play with that lime green and bright pink. That to me,
I was gonna say, I love the lime green. It's so like eye-catching, and yeah, against the pink, it's amazing.
It's a great, they contrast really well. And so this one, I started again with this idea that I was going to do this big gestural background and then I was going to paint on top of it. And this one was much more successful than the arrangement. I was able to leverage the relationship between the background and the shapes that I wanted to make better. When I did the arrangement, what I learned was I was trying to basically like sticker my painting on top of the background instead of using the background to inform the painting I'm making. And that was sort of a misstep. So being able to look at the shapes that I'd created, and when I'm making the work with the shapes, not against them, not on top of them, but with them, and using that background and what I've created to inform what I'm doing. So it's always that back and forth, that conversation. I'm replying to the painting that I've already made and seeing it in a new way. So this is where I started this one, is making the shapes, just starting with shapes and making sure the shapes were right, because that was an important part of this painting. It's great that these are totally out of order, right? You get to see everything over and over again. Maybe I don't have more of that one. Well, that's the boundaries of adaptation. That's what that one ended up as. Yeah. And this is a good background that became the prismatic duality painting. And you can see in this version is vertical. And the elements of the shapes are similar. But in this painting, it's very, it's like cut out shapes. I hadn't really determined what these things were. I didn't know what I was painting. It was shapes, and they were shapes that meant something, but I didn't know what they meant yet. And so coming back to this painting, I had removed a whole lot. I had to break it all apart and decide what I was going to do with it. This painting sat for a good 6 months, where I was just like, I don't know what to do with this painting. I'm not sure where it's going to go. And it finally started to come together that like this painting was about these two these two balls. but they weren't balls, right? They're orbs, they're something, they're like glowing things. But I still wanted some of that in the versions of that painting. I think I have more of this one. Where did it go? Oh, that's like it almost done. So it went horizontal, and then I started to realize that these are like flowers and plants, and I was watching these amazing documentaries on carnivorous plants. I was watching documentaries on carnivorous plants, and this is what happens. It all just comes out in that way. And I will also say that there is a backstory involved in the two creatures, which is that like this 69ing idea was very much part of this in the background, because I was thinking about giving and taking, and how to balance those things, and in a sexual way, but also in like a relationship way, and also in plants and insects and balance way. And so when you encounter this piece in the gallery and it says embraced or be embraced, it's because this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these duality of things happening at the same time, and they're different, but you need both, and you can't separate them. You need to have this spectrum of things that encompass you. And so prismatic duality is not about a single person or a multiple person or anything particular. It's about all this conversation. But this was a fun one to see change over time.
This one here is actually one of my very favorites.
Oh, yay!
I love it.
Thank you. And so I have not talked about why I don't draw figurative people. And I know that that's a question I got asked. So let's talk about this. I actually, so spoiler alert, my next series, I want to do a self-portrait series. And I've been thinking about this for a long time, a really long time. And it's almost just like I wasn't ready. And I'm ready. I'm ready now. I'm ready to do this stuff. I have more ideas than capacity, and that's always been a problem. And I think figuratively, right? I draw characters all the time. I draw little creatures and faces, and I love that, but I don't ever paint them. And I think it's because I was afraid to. I think I was afraid to. I did a lot of figure drawing, as you know, and there's a real freedom in figure drawing because for the most part, you're not spending weeks on a painting, right? You're there, it's momentary, it's got this like instant gestural quality. I love that. When you do the long sitting poses, that's the boring part for me.
Actually, before lockdown, I had joined a figure drawing group here, and I know I've done figure drawing like for years now, on and off, but the past few years, it's just really grabbed me there because it's so momentary. There's something really visceral about taking that moment and just like, it's like I'm working my way around a 3D form, 2D. Like I'm touching this thing, but on paper. And I don't know, I never thought I'd like people. Like I usually draw nature or animals, and drawing people the past couple of years has been really liberating for some reason. I don't know why, but it has.
No, that's awesome. I love that idea that it's like opening you up to new things.
So I find this interesting, your idea to shift and do self-portraits. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I've got, actually, oh, I think it's upstairs. No, wait, no, it's, no. So I have like 300 sketchbooks all around. Oh, there it is. I found it. I found the sketchbook. I can show you what I'm working on. And you can see the level of detail I put into this thought work of self-portraits. So I had this idea, right? And this is kind of new. I've been trying to find ways to sort of multiply the things that make me happy, right? So I know I love face paint and costumes and dressing up. Always makes me happy. And Della, this is like right in line with your question about painting me as the mushroom girl. Totally do it. Please have fun. I have no attachment to my self-image. In fact, you should see how often I change it because I don't have that attachment to my self-image. So I was thinking about layering different things I like. And I know I like face paint and costuming. And I have also been playing most recently in like UV lighting and what things look like differently in UV lighting, because I think glowing is fantastic and super fascinating and interesting. And in that whole conversation of natural, unnatural, like neon glowing UV things are natural. What? That's amazing. That stuff blows my mind. So that I've been playing with those things. So I'm layering the things up here. And I've been thinking about all these flower creations that I've been inventing in my brain. And I've been also thinking about words and cuss words and expletives and the way that they sort of can explode and the power they have, but then also that they're so common that it's not powerful anymore, and that sort of push-pull of that, and representing the cuss words as flowers. So I'm adding that to what I'm going to show you because it's a little sketch. It's because it's not going to make sense any other way. But this is my sketch of basically like exploding with flowers through my face, down my chest. But I would first start with painting. So I would paint myself with like colorful explosions, very gestural. So I would use that gestural side of things that I like making. But on me, that'll be new. I've never done that. That'll be fun. So abstract self-painting, but make it UV blacklight. Cool. All right. Then I take photos of myself. I like photography. I like documentation. Good. And then, oh God, I love Christy Mitchell's photography. Della, I was so excited you got to see her show and I didn't. So then I take a picture of myself and then I'm gonna paint that picture, but also large gestural on a painting on a black canvas. And then I'm going to like slowly process it by taking white chalk and drawing on the gestural drawing the things that I imagine. So I can imagine and draw the flowers out of the gestural color expanse because I can see it. Like I see flower shapes and I kind of pull them out of what's there.
I really look forward to seeing that process. That sounds really cool.
So that's kind of where I'm going, is I have this like series of exploding flowers, self-portrait, blacklight paintings. But I do think figural work is really, it's a thing, right? It's a thing because we're humans and we're painting humans. And as soon as you draw an eyeball or an ear or a lip or a fingernail, then you have made that thing. And it's that thing, and it's hard to make it anything else at that point. And that's the struggle. That's the struggle of like, how do you create something with more meaning and layer it and make it interesting? And I think the answer for me is make it about paint and process, and then that'll turn out okay. Or we'll see what happens. So I know it is getting late. So has anybody got anything else they want to talk about or questions? This has been so fun. I'm just like having the best time. Thank you for sharing this moment with me.
I'm trying to figure out how to take a selfie with your art.
Screen.
I found the selfie.
Oh, did you find the background?
Yeah.
I'll share the
I
background.
didn't.
Okay. No problem. There is a set of backgrounds. I will share that with you. Doop, doop, doop. It's going in the chat. And it's all the Zoom background, so you can take a picture and now you can have it for your Zoom background. You know, for all of our official work meetings.
Dude, I am having one on Monday. But you know how my Zoom backgrounds turn out for me? It's like it doesn't
have your face, yeah.
I need to put like a sheet over the back or something because it doesn't like these things back here, and so it doesn't want to do it. So I'll figure it out somehow. But thank you for sharing these.
Fantastic. Yeah, so if you put the Zoom background up and then you can take a picture.
The new form of advertisement, Zoom backgrounds.
Hey, I'm with it.
I think it's cool. The future is now.
Megan, I see your face. Hello, Daniel, who I am just now meeting, which is fantastic.
Right? Like you finally get to meet him. He exists. This is my Canadian boyfriend.
Hi. She didn't hire me.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for putting everything on. I've been like quietly geeking out over here while we were cooking and making things, and he made salmon crostinis. So yeah, perfect for like an art gallery reception, right? Yeah, I need to read through the chat too, because the entire conversation about art and vulnerability and exposure and authenticity is fascinating. But I'm a nerd for that shit, you know that. So Yeah. I still haven't actually had a chance to like look through your site yet. So that's next.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah.
You'll have to let me know how that goes.
I will. But it's so good to see your face.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I am
Absolutely.
so glad to have such awesome people. And this is a celebration for me in a lot of ways, a big milestone. So thank you from personal Kristen on all levels. My multiplicities recognize and appreciate your multiplicities. And I hope that you can find new things every time you visit the site and see new ways of finding meaning in the work, because I'm going to be playing with it. But have a fantastic rest of your Friday night. Oh,
You
that is
too.
very fascinating, Sarah.
Whoa.
I
That's
told
creepy.
you. It like will not do it for me.
I don't want you to just take a picture like that. Actually,
I think I will.
that's fantastic.
You know what? Okay, we're gonna do it.
So, if there wasn't a more fitting example of perversity and perversion and things not working and being amazing, because that's not the way it's supposed to work.
For real.
Thank you for being my example. And on that note,
bye.
All right, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Good night.
This was fun. Talk to you
Bye.
later.
Bye.
Trying to get this selfie here.
Yeah, I'm not going to leave until you get it. You're fine.
Here we go. Oh my God, that one turned out good, I think.
It's super fascinating.
It really, truly is.
So when you have the light on you, you show up like a transparent layer.
Yeah.